What's going on, you guys? Slim here with my brother, Asian Persuasion. You already know we're here at YCS Niagara, beautiful Canada, 2022. One of my favorite people of all time, Mr. Simon He, back on the channel, tops pretty much every event. Usually if I'm here, he's and he's behind the camera, and we're always the one recording him. That's just usually how it rolls. But how'd it go in Niagara for you? I know you had a really good run day one for sure, even through day two.
I went X1 altogether, losing one round to Exorcister because I wasn't really well prepared. Like I wasn't really well prepared to play that matchup, and I probably played some mistakes, and yeah, I could have played better against that. And then I lost in top 32 to my friend, also from the UK. So yeah, like prefer to go further, but losing to a friend, it's okay.
It's okay, yeah.
And what deck did you choose to play?
I went with Adventurous Spright. So it was like, this meta is kind of weird because we needed a ban list for this. I really wanted a ban list before Niagara. Every single engine is at full power.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to solve the format because Tier starting to do this thing like past two events where they EEV or spellcaster people. So the power spell Spright that was really good for Euros and Mystic Mind decks was just like slightly not as good anymore. But at the same time, if you build your Spright deck more geared to Tier, then you mess up the mirror match completely. If you like, you can only really use hand traps against Tier because you can't really use complete spells because they're gonna EEV you.
Yeah.
So, and that basically means that in a mirror match, you basically hand loop yourself. It's not enough really to stop their full board usually, or even just like a semi board. And then you have very little to play with. So, like if you're playing just hand drop Spright versus hand drop Spright, usually it's whoever goes first wins. So I really wanted to play Runic Spright because it's like a new card, like a new archetype. But through test, it's like really fun as well. But through testing, it's not that great going second. Like the missing the battle phase going second, and your field spell doesn't really, it's not really going to trigger to draw because you're going into second. So it's kind of, it's very difficult. I didn't want to play a deck that was just good going first because every deck is good going first. So I chose Adventurous Spright because it can play into boards a lot. Yeah.
All right.
Sure. Before you get any shoutouts.
Oh yeah, everyone from UK that like a lot of my boys that people don't recognize names, but like Callum Cook, Alfie Morton, Connor Lawson, Tom Lockett, Jake Ellis. They all like it. They all like contribute to supporting with cards and just like help testing. Luke Parks, David Erpen from Switzerland. Hanse Aguero, US Nats champion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, let's see it.
Let's get it.
So this doesn't really need any
Yeah,
explanation. The Spright stuff. Carrots, red. 3 jets. I could have played Pixie actually because I decided to go with IP. Since sometimes when they stop you and you have to negate with Griffin, you're left with like a token that you go into IP with. So I think I maybe should have played like a Pixie or a Duke Frog, although I don't really like Duke Frog, so they can stop them just declaring battle with something and just threatening your elf and your IP. Yeah, and the other Spright stuff is smashes and 3 starter. This is like really standard for now. And then the swap stuff, again, super standard. 2 Beaver and 1 Angler, like the smallest package. Like you don't really need to resolve this, but this is nice when you get it with Swap Frog, when you use it with Fateful Adventure. You can even like sometimes if you have all the blue and your jet and swap, you can Gigant this out, bounce it back with swap, and then like Fateful this away, or like discard it through some other means, and then like summon 2 things. It's really good. Like this deck kind of just puts on bodies, and you can do a lot of like, XYZ. It keeps extending. I have another card in extra deck. I can like utilize this card in quite a funny way as well. But yeah, I like this ratio. This is like pretty standard ratio for now. Anything more, it gets kind of bricky. So I did go with the Adventure package. Griffin, 3 of these, and 2 Rights, 1 Draco pack, and 1 Fateful. So this is really good because it's a water. You can make area with it. You can discard it for Swap Frog. the reason I play 2 of these is these can be kind of bricky. Sometimes you draw like multiples of these in hand and it's not really that good. The other spells I play, if you like Tactics and Dark Ruler, if you draw 2 off, it's not the most awful thing. Like they can be very useful like every single turn, because this game is kind of back and forth when you play like the Spright mode sometimes. So they crack your board, you crack their board. Like you rarely OTK them. And so having 2 of this, like this card is not very good in turn 2 because you don't really link into bigger links that much. Whereas like Dark Ruler and Tactics, it can be used like well over again. So I don't really want to break with 2 of these. This card, we had a discussion with the Europeans. They played Illegal Knight, and they had a good theory that Illegal Knight's good going second, so you can like clear boards. But I still prefer this. Like first of all, I didn't want to play both of them because it kind of bricks. But second of all, you go in first. You're trying to avoid the hand traps. You're trying to negate stuff. You're trying to actually like make a board. So you kind of do need this. But yeah, I also prefer this because it kind of like Illegal does this too. But you can I think it's a common play now. You can swap, bounce this back. You can have it on the field to stop the hand traps or threaten the hand traps, and then after Gigant, you bounce this back with swap. And if they don't Dark Ruler you can play this again. So it kind of sort of plays around Dark Ruler. Yeah, there was one mirror match where I played against Adventure Spright, and he did the Illegal Knight thing. Like game 1, he did full combo with Illegal Knight in hand, and I opened these 3 with Tactics and 2 other cards. I managed to OTK him. Like it was crazy because he tried to stop this, but then I still had this, so I could bounce stuff, and then I was making like Dark take his blue, and then did that stuff, and then did Area. So I ended up with like 2 Toads, a Rights token, which I took off him from Tactics, and a big Gigant. Yeah, and that was like OTK. That was great. To be honest, when I saw my hand, I was like, okay, this is pretty bad. But like, when you play through, it's insane. That's why I played this deck, because it's good going second. Yeah, and game 2 he did a very similar thing, but I'll show you in my extra deck. It's yeah, like if you don't play this card, it's like not as good played into boards. Yeah. For the only hand drop, I had 3 Nibiru. So, like I mentioned before, the format's kind of weird where if you can't just play all spells, I don't think, because then you're coin flipping against tiers at best. And sometimes you even lose when you go first, like the danger tier decks. So I wanted something that was like really high impact, but at the same time, you don't play too many hand traps so that your mirror match just is just like bad. Because like I played how many mirrors, like 4 or 5. I toured most of them, and like I think I only lost 2 games in a mirror match. I wanted to play them all day. Like the only reason I didn't play tier danger is because I didn't really test it that much, and it is quite a complicated deck to play. And also, every single good player I spoke to, they kept saying that in a mirror match, it's sometimes out of your control. Like they keep saying that my opponents made a lot of mistakes, but they made Dweller, and then that was it. Like I didn't want to play like a coin flip Dweller match, so I didn't play tiers. But tiers with EEV does have like an advantage, especially if they win the die roll against this deck. But so I just wanted like one hand trap that really blows them out when they tried to go for the Griffin EEV line, and maybe they even go Dweller, because Dweller kind of hurts this deck, and then drop it on them. And this card is dead going second, but like there's so many good going second cards in a mirror going second, but there are so many good going second cards here, it doesn't really matter. And if you go first in a mirror match, this is still okay, because like for them to break your board, they need to do 5 without guns. Like it's so this stops the crackback as well. And the rest of the stuff are 3 Dark Rulers. Like these are now power spell stuff. Like I really enjoy these cards. Like these are so good at playing into the board. Like any sort, most of the next boards in the meta.
This is one of your signature cards.
Yeah, one of the
We never forgot.
Econ, baby. Econ.
I love enemy controllers so much. Sometimes these get sided out in a mirror if I know they're playing like the same-ish sort of thing when I'm going first. But yeah, there's just so much utility with the spells. Just hope that you don't get spell canceller or EV'd, or you win a die roll against them or draw nib basically. And then the last 2 power spells. Yeah, that for
Brave and the Beaver.
yeah, Brave and the Angular Beaver.
Yeah.
Beaver.
That little beaver.
40.
40. Yeah, definitely
Green
have to
40.
40. I couldn't play Prosperity in this deck because there was like I couldn't
more
find
space.
space. Yeah. And
Did you miss it at all?
the only time going second, no, because you kind of tend to draw so many variations of the power spells. It's okay. Going first, so it kind of lowers your chance of getting into those oppressive side deck traps that you side in. So sometimes if I go first and I don't draw them, yeah, I guess I miss it because then I can't Prosperity for 6 and then dig for those cards.
Yeah.
But it's okay. For the extra deck, we have the Zeus package. This is pretty standard now. IP, like, I'm not a huge fan of this card, but again, because of the adventure stuff, you're often left with, especially if you negate with Griffin, you're often left with quite a few materials that you do nothing with. Maybe even if you bounce one back with Swap Frog, you're still left with like one random thing. So this into Unicorn, it's just like another interruption to make use of the cards. The 2 Gigants standard, 3 Elf. This used to be like Phoenix, but because of grind game in the mirror match, I think Elf is like pretty necessary now. Toad.
That card needs to go.
Dark. Yeah.
I'm over
you can
that
limit.
card.
I think you can limit Swap Frog to 1.
Oh, that could hit too.
That deck is still playable, but just no one near as powerful.
Yeah.
Dark. This is like guarantee necessary. Like I think this is very, very necessary too, because like going second again, you have so many extenders, and then I cannot OTK through boards or like break through boards as much as I do without this card. Because like in a mirror match, obviously they have Toad, and in the tier match they have Merly. So I think it's very, very important, especially because I have more waters as well. I have the Beaver stuff. I have Enchantress. So this card is very easy to make. Onimaru, this card never came up, but
So,
Oh, Soul Sweeper. Yeah.
yeah, in theory, like going second sometimes you kind of need it, or if there's like a problematic monster. And the final card is Mannequin Cat.
Oh, nice. You did play it.
Yeah. Some like the Europeans play this. I think there was one European that played this in the top cut of Euros, but he was doing like with Scythe. He was like doing with Sanctum and Scythe. So you can like if they play Brave stuff or any light stuff as well, you can when they special summon, you can target one of their monsters, and then summon Scythe from your deck kind of graveyard. Because this card is crazy. Like when I first read it out for building like a Spright deck, I was thinking this card had a lot of potential, but then I kind of ignored it for a little bit because I didn't like sit down and figure out all the plays you could do with it. But basically, it's once per turn you attach a material, target one monster in the graveyard, special summon to the field, and then when your opponent special summons any monster, you can target one monster on the field. So like not just the one that's special summoned, and you summon one monster that is the same type or attribute from your deck, hand, or graveyard, right? So you summon from absolutely anywhere. So like, and it's just a generic 2 level 2 rank 2.
Yeah.
So the things you can do with this, like you can extend, you can it's like a 2 Gigants. You can use this before you Gigant, so you just keep extending with monsters. The type of things that you can summon sometimes is like if you're going second and you side in this, you can summon this if they have like Earth.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Or Dinosaur, but Dinosaur is like super rare. The other stuff, like the generic stuff that you bring out is like Aqua stuff, like Swap, or Jet or Blue. But there's like really cool plays where you can bring back their Gigant, and then you can target their Gigant, special summon your Gigant from the graveyard if you've used all your Gigants, and then because that still has a material, you can activate Gigant and you detach a material from this.
From the cat.
And it's like the other cool some of the cool plays that you can do is like you make this and then you go into Jet and Blue, you make Gigant, you attack, and then main phase 2 you make Zeus with Downed over this, you activate Gigant, you chain this, so you wipe out the board, but this will detach the last material from the Zeus, and then they can't use their snow, they can't use their engraved like tier effects anymore, so you wipe out the board and you get to like summon from Gigant, and you still, well, you don't have a Zeus material anymore, but you can probably go into the Toad line after that. There's like so many useful things that you can, if you need to, you can special summon Carrot or Red. Like if you just like leave this on the field against the mirror, you're special summoning either a Toad again or Carrot and Red, wherever, like whatever you need. you can, like, there was one time where I had a really weird hand where I did this into this, bounce this back with swap, discard this for Fateful, special summon 2, go into area, and then just like make a bigger Gans, and it just kept on going and going and going. And this card also, it baits out Snow. So in a tail elements matchup, you summon this before you do any Gigant stuff. So you target Snow, so they have the option to change Snow or not. Like usually they don't, because it doesn't really matter. Even if they do, it's special summons, and then my cat will be chaining 1 because it's special summon, and chaining 2 will be the Snow to put this down. But I already get to summon, so like that Snow will stay on the field, and then I can do my Gigant stuff and everything.
That's broken.
So yeah, there's a lot of utility used with this card. Side deck is pretty. To be honest, I could have worked on the side deck a bit better, because we need to hand this in like 5 a.m. 10 a.m. on Friday.
10 in the morning.
Yeah, it was like a last minute 2 a.m. job, like B-barrier. Anti-spell because of the runic stuff that's going around, like the runic variants, and also if I played like the mirror match kind of. So yeah, it's not that good against tiers. Yeah, like all the like mirrors and runic spells, it just kills that deck unless they draw the runic destruction, which pops a spell or trap. But they only play like one of them apart from the pure runics.
James.
Why are you laughing? Did you play
You
against
play
them?
pure runic?
I had 3 cosmics. Again, the runic stuff. Sometimes the mirror match stuff. Any back row related deck, like you don't any Mystic Mind deck, because like you don't want to. They all protect now. All the runic monsters they protect. So from destruction. So like you want cosmics more.
Yeah.
Didn't really have space for harpies. Didn't really have space for like lightning storms and stuff like that. So this is for the tier matchup going second again. So like going second post side, you have 6 hand traps to stop them being EV'd. But in hindsight, this should have been Shifter and Gamma. Although I considered it, I couldn't find a space for Gamma to be the Gamma burst. To be honest, the theory is to Gamma to Shifter them, and then to OTK with just like if you resolve a blue effect and then Jet and then Gamma burst. If you have an open field, then that's game.
Yeah.
That's like OTK right there.
Oh, the quick play.
But like I kind of overthought about it, and I think like any good player now, if they get shifted, I don't think they'd end on like just nothing. They'd set Super Poly, which stops you if you go Jet and Blue, stops you OTKing. Maybe if you do it on the Rhino Heart as well, the normal summon, if you shift it on Rhino Heart, they have the Rhino Heart, and then they can set like a hard drawn Sulic, so they can still negate one of your things, so it makes it harder to OTK. And if you can't OTK and you can't set up Toad, then you're not really gaining enough for them when they come back and crack you on their turn.
Yeah.
But actually, in hindsight, like the play was to, depends on what they open with. That if their first thing is to instant fusion into like Kick Kalos, then you allow that, and then they search possibly Melee, and then when they activate Kick Kalos, special summon Melee. When they go chaining 1 Kick Kalos, chaining 2 Melee, then you shifted them. So like even if you can't OTK them, they banish 8.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of resources gone. So like even if you can't kill them, like they can't play as well with like so many resources banished. And the final 3 cards are Pankratops is really good going second against like Mirror Match and all sorts of matchups. Would not take this out ever. Red Reboot and this stupid thing. This never came up. This never ever came up. So 45.
What you got?
That's the deck.
Awesome.
Broken.
Well, always amazing to have you on the channel. Always
Thank
a
you very
pleasure.
much for having
And
me.
we'll see you at the other YCSs. So
Take care.
congratulations
Yes, sir.
on another top. We'll
Congrats.
see you in the next one.
Thank you.